let's start our class now. Let me share the screen. 没有开始就结束了，就这样。Okay, last week we have actually gone through the quantitative versus qualitative research. So today we are going to further look into the we haven't gone through the example of IT-based quantitative research. This is an example of network-based quantitative research. The objective, again, your objective should start with this word tool. To do what? To explore the emerging threats to the network operation. This is their objective. And the methodology used is by using questionnaire distributed to computer network experts. So the expert is going to answer the questionnaire. In your assignment, you have downloaded data set. It's actually come from this questionnaire as well. Your data set also comes from the questionnaire distributed to US young adults. Then for their data analysis in this research, the network emerging threats is by using statistics about the causes or factors of emerging threats to network operation. Okay, now in designing, if let's say you are going for quantitative research and you want to get the statistic, for example, you have let me share the whole screen. So I'll be able to okay, let me share the entire screen so you'll be able to see what I mean by the questionnaire that you are designing. If let's say you are going to collect quantitative data, then the questionnaire in the item or the question in the questionnaire should sound something like this. Rank not responding. Rank the following tracks for network. Then you might have not responding. Track A, I'm not sure what are the track there. Track B, so I just give example of track C and track D. Now because you want to get quantitative data, so you might want to let them rank and choose which one is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So you'll be able to gather information of data. For example, maybe out of 20 experts that they rank, 9 of them rank this as the first, and then 5 of them rank this as first, 10 of them rank this as the first, 24, and then 2 of them rank this as the first track. So you have the quantitative data. If let's say you are going to conduct qualitative, your questionnaire questions could be something like this. What are the possible tracks of network? And then you leave it blank. You let them answer by themselves. This is qualitative questionnaire items, which is not so easy to compile because everybody is going to give you different answer. But this one you just need to collect, okay, 9, and then you plot your graph based on this statistic. That's an example of possible IT-based quantitative research. And some of you carry out experiment, like for example, you test the accuracy of different performance of models, and this is also quantitative research. Then qualitative, referring, for example, attitude or opinion research designed to find out how people feel or what they think about a particular subject or institution. For example, again, objective, we start with the word tool. to explore what the customers like about Android. Their methodology is to interview 50 people. You can also use questionnaire, but your questionnaire question will allow them to answer it in this format instead of this format. So qualitative, you can collect data from either questionnaire or interview. So 50 people, they are going to interview them. And the data analysis, you will need to transcribe. Transcribe means, like say, people answer this, right? And then if you have 50, then you get 50 paragraphs. How are you going to combine all of them, summarize them, and categorize them into trends or themes, into different categories? That's called transcript, the interview result. You're going to categorize them and spot or look for the trends or themes. Let's move on to the experimental design, non-experimental design, and quasi-experimental design. So we all know that experimental design means that we're going to carry out an experiment and look for the different condition, different reaction based on different condition that we impose on the respondent. This is the definition. It involves the researcher manipulating variables and wait until it has produced the change. We have dependent and independent variables. Okay, so we are going to change independent variables, and then we look at the dependent variable, how the dependent variable are changing when we manipulate or change the independent variable. Different type of experimental design. We have after only or before and after. Okay, the researchers starts we are going to look at the after only and before and after experimental design. But let's go through this non-experimental design. We're going to start from the outcome to determine the cause. So we do not actually manipulate any variables. Okay, we're going to look at, like for example, you have the result already and you want to determine what is the cause. What you are doing is not actually non-experimental design. You have all the data. And we want to find out what are the variables that actually affect academic performance, for example. Non-experimental design. You want to determine the cause. So this is called as correlation. We want to find out which variables are related or cause this happen, cause your dependent variable to change. Quasi-experimental design is actually involving both experimental and non-experimental study. So part of them are non-experimental and the other part of your study will be carried out experiment. Combination of both will be quasi-experimental design. Let's take a look at the experimental design example. We want to test a new drug to treat diabetes. And in this experiment, we are going to adjust on the different dosage of the new drug. And we measure the level of sugar. The sugar level on Y, which are the participants, Y. Okay, so for different dosage, the sugar level will increase or decrease. And that's why we manipulate. Manipulate means you make changes to this dosage. Either you increase it slowly or you decrease it slowly and then measure the sugar level. So this sugar level is your dependent variable that will depend on your IV here, your X here. And let's say we have an experiment, okay? We have an experiment result which give you all this study. This is existing data that we get or we download from somewhere else. So we are not actually changing any of this variable. We are going to look at the causal relationship, whether there is any relationship between X and Y. This is what you are doing now. You have this data set. You don't carry out the experiment. You just want to find out whether there is any relation between the two variables, right? You are doing now in your assignment. After only experimental design, so we have an example here, also a case study to test a new drug to treat diabetes. Say, for example, we're going to carry out experimental design. Now, if we have only this, we are doing after only experimental design means this is a group of diabetic patients, and we assume that all of them have the same, almost the same sugar level. We assume we did not measure their sugar level, and then experimental group 1 sugar level 180. When you give them the higher dosage, then the sugar level will be 140, and then for sugar level 210, we assume all of them have 210, and when we give them lower dosage, the sugar level is 170. The so-called after only experimental design means that we do not actually test on before they carry out the experiment. We do not do any testing on before we start the experiment. We only measure the sugar level after they take the dosage. So what if the sugar level of group 1 patient is lower than group 2, even before taking the drug? Okay, like for example, their sugar level 180 and their sugar level 210. If let's say this is originally lower than 210 already, then this one is definitely will be relatively lower. The sugar level here definitely will be lower than this group, which is a bias actually, because you only give assumption that they have the same sugar level, but actually group 1 coincidentally they have the same sugar level of 180 before they start the experiment. And then experiment group 2, their sugar level is at average of 210, so it's not similar. This group doesn't have the same sugar level. If your sugar level is at 180, 180.5, 181, 179, that is all right. We can assume that they have same sugar level. But then when we look at these two experimental group, if you do not measure their sugar level before you start the experiment, they might have different sugar level actually. So this will affect your result to be inaccurate if you just take the after only experimental design. Then another type of more accurate experimental design is called before and after. Means you are going to really look at their sugar level, measure their sugar level, and then measure their sugar level before they start to use the dosage, and then measure their sugar level after they take the dosage. Then only you decide whether there is any difference between them. For the previous one, we don't know what is the difference as well, because we did not actually measure their sugar level before you start the experiment. But in the second case, they start to measure the sugar level even before you start the experiment. So you know the difference between before and after, and decide whether dosage X is affecting Y. That's called before and after. But definitely, if you are using before and after, it's very time consuming because you have to measure sugar level for each one participant in your experiment. Okay, what does it mean by control group design? We have experiment the diabetic patients. It's good that you have experiment group and also experiment 2 different group with high dosage, give them high dosage. Another group you give them low dosage, but there is another control group which you don't give them any dosage at all. You don't give them any dosage, and let's compare. If let's say the higher dosage people change the sugar level, and we compare with the control group, which they don't take any dosage at all. For experimental group 2, you give them lower dosage of drug, and let's compare their changes in the sugar level with the control group. So control group is a group of people, they do nothing. You don't do anything on them. It's used for comparison. If they are not treated by any treatment, if they are not involved in the treatment. Let's take a look at a past year question. So this is how it looks like in your midterm test. College students with identical characteristics are randomly assigned into two groups. These two groups of respondents are first given a performance test, and group 2 later given the treatment, a problem-based learning program. So we have two groups here, two groups. Okay. These two groups of respondents first given a performance test. Okay, we test them first. And then after test two groups, then only group 2 only are given a treatment, which is a problem-based learning program. Only group 2 involved in this learning program. So after 3 months, both groups are again given the performance test to find out if there are any differences in performance between these two groups. So one group, group 1, group 2, they go through performance test first and measure what is their performance. Then in the next 3 months, group 1, we just leave it. Group 2, we give them learning program. And after 3 months, these two groups come together and sit for the test again and see whether there's any performance difference between two groups. If the performance of group 2 is better, the researcher will conclude that the problem-based learning program has increased the performance of college students. So referring to the above scenario, identify the type of research design adopted by the researcher. Experimental design, non-experimental design, quasi-experimental design, or none of the above. Which one? Okay, someone answer as A, experimental design. Obviously, this is not a non-experimental design, right? This is an experimental design. Okay. The answer is A. Okay, let's take a look at another past year question. A group of researchers was conducting research to determine effects of increasingly exposing.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
For the previous question, I guess the answer is A, but I want to know the reason why C is wrong.
Quasi-experimental design. Okay, quasi-experimental design means you have a study, you carry out a study, right? And then you get you carry out an experiment for these two groups of students, right? You carry out on this college student. So you have the experimental design. And then you get data set from another researcher, which also carry out this research. And they have also measured with the performance difference. So you compare your result with their result. So you have quasi-experimental design.
Oh, okay. Yes.
All right, let's move on. A group of researchers was conducting research to determine the effects of increasingly exposing the customer to advertisement for a famous bakery. And then researchers randomly assigned the customers into two groups, group A and group B. Then their attitude, customer desire to buy the cakes, was measured. For 1 whole week, customers in group B were exposed to cake sales promotion advertisement on daily basis. On the other hand, customers in A were exposed to this advertisement only once. And after 1 week, customer attitude in group A and B were measured. So what kind of experimental design is adopted by researchers? You have group A, group B, right? Then before you start the experiment, you measure their attitude, whether they want to buy your cake or not. After measure their attitude, and then you put them into two groups, Group B, every day you expose them to the advertisement. Group A, expose them to the advertisement only once, one time in this 1 week time. And after 1 week, both attitude will measure again whether they want to buy your cake or not. Okay, the answer is before and after experimental design because you measure the desire, right? Right, very good. The same, all right, the same scenario, but then now group A and group B was also before and after, yeah. The customer desire to buy the cake, the attitude was measured. For 1 whole week, customer B exposed to the promotion daily, but then group A will not expose to any advertisement. And after 1 week, both groups are measured. So group A is considered as, yes, control group C. You're right. Okay, now let's come back to here. This one, right? Is this what kind of experimental design? Before and after only, or before only experimental design under this case? Additional question. This is an experimental design. Is this before, after, or after only? After only means you don't measure them. You don't measure their performance before you start the experiment. In this case, it's before and after. Yes, you're right. Thank you very much, Aish and Bing. Law. I don't know what is your full name. It's before and after because you are firstly given the performance test. Both of them, right? This is the before you start the experiment. And then after 3 months, you give them performance test again. So before and after. Okay, qualitative research. We have different kinds of, other than questionnaire, interview. You can also carry out focus groups, survey study, or case study, oral history, participant observation, holistic research, community discussion forum, and so on and so forth. Focus group means you select experts or you select a small group of people, ask them to come together. Like for example, expert lecturers in conducting research, you ask them to come together, sit together, and then you give them an issue to discuss. Let this group of people discuss, and then you record what they have discussed, okay? And then you come up with the analysis for the finding. So definitely discussion result will not have the so-called A, B, C, D, and then statistic 1, 2, 3, 4, right? There is a paragraph, a big paragraph, or even they are verbally telling you, okay, I think that the student need to take up this subject, blah, 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 blah. So among this group of people, when they start to discuss on an issue, you will start to record and transcribe to find out the trend and tip. This is very expensive because you will need to invite them, and sometimes you will need to give them money to join your focus group experiment. For survey study, we can actually involve more people, larger sample size. You just give them survey, right? Okay, like questionnaire, you just give them a survey form. But the disadvantage is the inflexible design because you will need to fix all the items. You cannot say because I met someone, like for example in the interview, if I met someone with so special experiment, I can add on some question to let them elaborate more on their experience. But survey, no, you just give them. You cannot ask extra question. So it's very inflexible. But you can collect a lot of feedback from the survey. And lower cost, larger group, high representativeness means if you have 1,000 students, 1,000 students for second year from FOCS, you can easily get 800 response from there. This high responsiveness can increase the representativeness of your data collected. Your data can represent the student, this group of students. Very convenient for you, and you have good statistical significance. Ask you a question. Researcher uses predetermined open-ended question. Do you know what is open-ended question? Open-ended question. Do you know what is open-ended question? No answer. Yes, this is open-ended question. It's open for you to give whatever answer. This is closed-ended question. Closed-ended question. It ended with only four option only. This is open to any answer. Okay? So in this case, they are using open-ended question, and the entire data collection process will be repeated with all respondents in exactly the same way in the interview, right? Okay. To avoid biases that may result in inconsistency. The above statement describe a data collection technique, identify the technique. Open-ended question, and then the entire data collection process will be repeated the same way. The answer is structure. What does it mean by structure and unstructured? Structure means I carry out an interview. If I want to interview 10 people, the time given for you to answer the question asked to you will be exactly the same. There will be no exceptional case. It won't be, I won't ask you extra question because you have special experience. I don't do that. That is under unstructured interview. If you view a lot of interview program from the TV, right? TV show. They're going to ask unstructured question based on what you answer. Then I throw you another question because you answer something and you trigger some interest. So we answer different questions. That is called unstructured interview. Semi-structured interview, we have a set of questions, and on this set of, based on this set of questions, we have additional question. We can add in additional question. That is called semi-structured question. So in this case, we are asking open-ended questions. So most probably it will be interview, but the entire process repeatedly, exactly same way. So it is structured interview. Okay. All right. So we have a recap, a quick recap. We have gone through the quantitative versus qualitative research, experimental design, non-experimental, quasi-experimental design. And under experimental design, we have this before and after only experimental design. And under qualitative, you can also make use of survey study and focus group. So I have done with our chapter 3. Do you have any question before we move on to another chapter? And meanwhile, I will need the class rep to take attendance. Class rep, can you WhatsApp me? I give you 5 minutes to do this. After 9:30 will not be given any attendance here. Let's take 5 minutes break and come back at 9:40. Okay, Yanson done. And then what is your name? Yeah, group 456 RSD. I need to save your RSD group 456. I need to save your name. Boom. Group 456. Thank you, Yvonne. And then RSW group 1. This is Chai. Ren Yao is absent. Tan Ren Yao is absent. Then RSW group 3 for attendance. I will need 5 more groups. Okay, RSW group 2. This no, I will need the absent, those who are absent, because I don't know what is your list. Thomas, I need a list of absent. Oh, these are the absent, sorry. Okay, thanks. So Jingwei, Mingkit, and Lim Zizhu are absent. Are you here? Not here, right? Jingwei, Mingkit, and Lim Zizhu from RSW Group 2. Absent. Thank you, Thomas. 4 more groups to go. Okay, RSD Group 3. If you are here, thank you very much. We check. 3 more groups to go. Where's now 3 groups? Okay, Ryan, RSW for attendance. And then RSD, Semtu Group 1. Chan Yu-sun, Francis Lim, Ng Yi-sheng, Go Wei-yuan, and Ping Yong. Absent. Okay. Pung, Pung, Jan Yong. Absent. Okay, one more last group. RDS group, see? So class right here. Class right is absent. RDS group. While waiting for RDS, let me move on to this chapter. This chapter is very, very important in research because if, let's say, you violate this ethical consideration in research, you might be blacklisted in publication in the world of research journal. They know that you are not ethical, unethical. There is one professor from Japan who violated professor, yeah, is a professor, not a senior lecturer like me. he violated one of the ethical consideration. Someone said that he copied or he plagiarized his experimental data result. He plagiarized means he copied from somewhere else. There is a clash between his result. Someone claimed that this professor's result is actually their result. And end of the day, this professor quit his job and lost his reputation. He quit his job. He was forced to quit his job and lost his reputation in the world of research after that. He's a professor, yeah? Okay, so this is a very serious consideration. If you are involving in research, you better know and understand very clearly that don't plagiarize, don't copy and paste. It's very serious. If you want to copy and paste, you have to cite. Do you know what does it mean by cite? What does it mean by citation? Right? This new for example, when say there is a drop in the jobless uh, students or graduates in Malaysia, and then you say according to the latest statistic in 2022. And then you have to do citation. This is maybe from the start, 2023. This is called citation. You have to tell us where you get this statement from. You said there is a drop in the jobless graduates. There's a drop. So you are supporting it. You get it from this article. Although you are not copying this sentence from the start, you're not copying this sentence, you still have to let us know that where you get this from. Maybe the star, if let's say the star, go to the star, you say, okay, we find the star newspaper online. This is the star newspaper, and you say, okay, maybe this. Johor to get 15 million in immediate aid. This is from the Prime Minister. Okay, so for example, new Prime Minister is so good that right click only paste the text. Okay, Johor to get immediately aid in the Star newspaper today. You still have to quote that this is from the Star 2023. When you copy and paste exactly the sentence here, you'll have to put this double quotation to show us that you are copying this sentence from somewhere else. Citation. Well, this is allowed. You can do this. At least you tell us that you copy, right? You copy from somewhere else. This is okay, right? But the problem is that, wow, so good. Teacher can copy. Okay, then I copy again. I say, okay. He said this, blah, blah, blah. Okay. PM Anwar. And then you copy it again. Said this allocation will be useful to the flood victim as an urgent step. And then I put the star. 2023. So you see a lot of this thing, right? In your report. Can you do that? Can you do that? Yes, you can do this. But the marks will be very low. You can do this. It's ethical to do this. But then we don't do that because it's bad to our reputation. It means you are copycat only. You don't interpret the content and rewrite it in your own sentence. You are copycat only. Nobody want to read your article. I might as well come to and read this the start. Why must I read your article, right? And nobody want to publish your paper if you write it in this way, although it's ethical to do that, right? So don't do that. Okay? Now this is the example that I show you just now. Either use single quotation or double quotation to show that you copy this from somewhere else. It's okay to do that, right? It's okay to do this, but don't do it for too many times. Paraphrasing means that you are going to present an idea or argument in your own words. Make sure that, like for example, yeah, in a school, I don't want to mention which school is that. Master level student. I was like, what? Very stupid lah. This kind of student. You know what they did? Okay, they say I do paraphrasing means I use my own word. How did they use their own word? They do something like this. They copy and paste this into their assignment, and then they say 50, okay, space million for Johor, and then full stop, and then they put in their own words because of for they delete the dot, right, for river management, and then they change this to help the flood victims and other. Okay, I don't want to use urgent. You see, I copy and paste and see what are the other words that I can use for urgent. Synonym for urgent is emergency. Okay, then I use emergency requirements. They did this, and then turn out they submit 13 plagiarism. Highlighted this sentence, plagiarism in Turnitin. Turnitin is a plagiarism chat, very popular chat. They highlighted this sentence and said plagiarism because you are copying and pasting someone else's work, and you just change the words here and there, which is not correct. That is not called as paraphrasing. This is not called as paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means you understand this, or they have 50 million to help the flood victim and the urgent. So you understand this, then close it, open up a new page, and you write it by using your own words. For example, PM promise to help the flood victims with 50 million, especially for emergency purposes. And then you come back. Am I writing it correctly? 50 million, the main thing, yeah, I have the 50 million here. And the 50 million is for helping the flood. Okay, I have the flood victim. And then emergency requirement, yes, for emergency purposes. Done. You have all the idea. This is called paraphrasing, using your own word, and double check whether you did it correctly. Right? That's called paraphrasing. So remember, don't do something stupid like this. And then the master student, after turn out 89% of high plagiarism, I give them a fail in their assignment one, and they argue and come and make noise and say, I changed a lot already. I said, okay, I give you second chance. And then they go back and change again, and then they submitted 60%. I said, oh my god, the thing I changed a lot already, we changed a lot. I said, did you copy and paste and change the words only? They said, oh, okay, I go back and check again. 50%. Very obviously, they are copying and pasting and only change the word. I told them, don't do that. Write it from your own sentence and own words. Although it's not a very good sentence, but at least that is from you, right? That is from you. Don't do copy and paste. Okay, summarizing is a little bit challenging if you are first doing the literature review, which I'm asking you all to go back and write one paragraph, right? Summarizing, I would say, are actually for the expert. You really understand your article, you can do summarizing, because summarizing means that you read the whole article, you summarize what they did for the whole article in few sentences, or you combine several people's research and summarize it in one paragraph. Not only one article in one paragraph, but you're summarizing few people's work in one paragraph. That one is called summarizing, right? The main point. All right, let's take a look at another term, which is called secondary references, which I do not encourage you all to do this. I don't encourage you all to do this, right? So for example, okay, maybe we need some time to do this. I will need to show you the exact example. It's a reference in another reference article. A reference in another reference article. I don't have a reference list here, so I don't. Maybe I go to here. Let's see if we are able to see this. And I say academic performance for student, and I want to take one of it, and I open it. Say this is the article, right? And am I able to download this PDF? Okay, we are lucky enough to get this because sometimes it's not. Okay, can you see this? See this? Emotional intelligent EI is relatively new construct compared with intelligent IQ. Means EQ is quite new lah. With the first academic article appearing in 1990, these people write about this EI, right? This is the original people that come up with emotional intelligent EI or EQ lah, as compared to IQ. So I want to, then when I look at this, okay, when I look at this, it's actually from here, right? But I cannot download. I have no access to this article because it's too old already. Let's say it's too old. But then this is very important because I am doing EQ also. I am doing EQ and my research is about EQ. So I need to write that EQ originally comes from, who is this? SALOVE, research. In 1990, right? 1990. 1990. How do I cite it? Can I copy and paste this into my reference list? Cannot. What you need to do is you have to tell us that, okay, I get this actually from, because you have not read the article before. So it's very dangerous that you just cite that article. You get this statement actually from here. Who made this statement? This fellow made this statement. So you will have to quote them. Say, Salome in what? Caroling, is it? Caroling. 20 something something. You say, I get this actually originally, okay, it's actually this person say this, but I found his research in Carolyn's research. That's called second reference. Second referencing. Secondary references, which is very confusing. So I don't want you all to actually use this. The best is that you get the mandatory reference and cite it in your own references. Okay, don't use secondary references. Yeah. All right. Let's just stop here since it's already 9:56, and I will see you back next week. Make sure that you get all the tasks done listed in the weekly tasks as posted in your Google Classroom, and I will see you back in the next practical class. RDS, have you sent me the WhatsApp? Okay, RDS is here. Thank you very much. Absent. T. Lo Wenqi. Du Qingxian. The rest are present. Thank you very much. Bye bye. See you. Have a nice day. You're welcome. Bye.